Hello, so today I wanted to talk about nature and supernature. What is natural and what is supernatural? This is based on the concepts explained in C.S. Lewis's book Miracles, where the question arises whether nature can be described entirely by naturalistic principles, meaning regarding nature as a system, as a potentially closed or open system of processes that run according to certain rules and laws, or whether there is a transcendent aspect to nature, meaning there is such a thing as the supernatural, which seems to interact or in some way influence nature, that lies beyond a description of a system, that lies somewhere in the realm of, in this case, divinity. Now, the problems with naturalism, so the problems with trying to explain nature as one closed system, lies in the fact that that system appears to be never fully known. Now, if everything is part of nature, if everything is part of that system of nature, what confidence can we have in knowing about this and in fully understanding it? So our confidence lies in our use of logic, rationality, and empiricism. The interesting thing here is that based on common metaphysics, based on times of Aristotle and Plato, it seems that even our foundations of our rationality and our reason seem to stem from a sort of metaphysic that puts logic as something that is absolute, that is fundamental to nature, that is a fundamental truth. However, once logic becomes part of nature, it is not exactly clear how nature can be fully described as a system by means of logic. So it is not entirely clear whether logic itself can be seen as valid if one doesn't posit logic as something supernatural, as something that can describe nature from outside of it. If one stays with the fact that nature is the entirety of the system and logic is somewhere embedded in it, there's no real reason to assume that logic can give full truths. Logic would have to be then reduced to some sort of principles of thought, to some sort of psychologism. The mathematician Edmund Husserl tried to get away from this psychologism in his logical investigations, while still maintaining the objectivity of logic. The question now arises though, can it be really objective if it is derived from the system of nature and that system potentially cannot be described with logic at all? So in a way then, the kind of supernatural, the transcendent aspect of nature comes back in, because it is not really possible for a human, which is part of nature, employing logic to really describe nature. So nature will always be able to defy logic. There will always be the possibility of something entirely unpredictable, entirely lying outside of that constructed system happening, as nature would bear the infinite possibility of something lying something lying outside of the logic that has been developed within nature. The resolution that C.S. Lewis would give would be in a sense that logic indeed is supernatural. Logic is something that comes from reason, and reason is a faculty that is used by humans which mirrors the ultimate reason of God, the ultimate structure and order of the universe, which boils down to the ideal sense of pure reason. Now, there's two ways or two perspectives that are symmetrical and that address the same kind of issue. One would be the kind of nihilistic view, where the nihilist looks at nature as something essentially undescribable, as something essentially evading the grasp of human thought, and thus always providing for something that appears to us as supernatural. And as there is no fundamental truth in that sense, whatever appears to us as supernatural can very validly be referred to as supernatural. The other view is the idealist view, which looks at the exact same phenomenon. However, it states that the supernatural is something essentially real, and it is that which contains nature in itself. So the supernatural becomes a superordinate sphere which can contain nature in it. The supernatural. And this supernatural then adheres to the rules of reason. So reason is kind of saved, and logic is kind of saved and rescued here, as nature becomes subordinate to the ideal sense of reason and thought. In a sense, this would lead to similar results, as humans, if you think about it, should not be able to participate in the full logic and reason of God. Humans could only strive for it, but there will always be principles that are undiscovered. There will always be a system that we haven't discovered yet, that we haven't disclosed by means of logic yet, that could suddenly break into what we conceive of as nature and perform a sort of act which we would register as a supernatural event. I hope this has provided for some food for thought, and I will see you next time.